Welcome. Thank you for agreeing to be a facilitator at a Food Systems Dialogues table. It's a very important role, and you've been specifically chosen because of our understanding of your skills and experience. I'm going to take you through a few pointers so that you feel comfortable with your responsibilities during a Food Systems Dialogues event. A Food Systems Dialogues event is a forum for round-table multi-stakeholder conversation. The idea is to create an opportunity for different actors to have positive interactions and to work together to generate proposals for action to transform food systems. There will be several tables at the event, and at each table people will come from a diverse range of sectors and backgrounds. They will have different levels of knowledge about the subject being discussed. People may even think that they've been assigned to the wrong table, or they may feel that they've nothing to contribute to the conversation. Please let the participants at your table know that this is precisely the point of the Food Systems Dialogues. We're using a systems approach. We're looking at food as the outcome of interacting systems. And we like to encourage participants in Food Systems Dialogues to recognise how their interests interconnect with and affect the interests of others in food systems. We're also encouraging people to share their expertise and their experience and to ensure that others with whom they do not normally interact have a chance to feel it and to experience it themselves. You will be assigned to a table, and at your table there will be a discussion topic. It's related to a particular area of food systems. The discussion topic is phrased as an ideal future state of food systems. It's a very optimistic projection to what food systems might look like in the future, say in 10, 15 years. At your table, you will work to answer the question, what will make the biggest impact towards reaching this future state? So the goal of your table is to think of a number of initiatives, policy initiatives, new innovations, alternative ways of working, initiatives which could help move in the right direction, to decide which would be the most impactful, and then to elaborate on this idea in more detail. So at the beginning, you will be finding a number of ideas emerging at your table, and then over time, you will distill down to one or at most two ideas that you feel can actually have the greatest impact. And we usually say, can you think of the ideas which, if invested if pursued in the next 3 years, will have the greatest long-term impact towards achieving your ideal future state? So by focusing on the coming 3 years and what can be done in those coming 3 years, but then thinking through to longer-term impact, you're able to look at things that can be done now or soon within the current political, institutional context or within the present environment to have the greatest possible impact. And in this way, you can also be thinking about the immediate hurdles that would have to be overcome to get the result. Usually in a dialogue, we say there should be between 45 and 90 minutes for those sitting at the table to identify their big ideas and then to work through how those ideas could be pursued. Proposals for action. Usually one is enough, otherwise it just is so difficult to really make sense of the conversation. But if necessary, perhaps a second one can be introduced. We do think it's more valuable for the dialogue table to come out with a well thought through proposal than many that are perhaps more superficial. At the conclusion of the event, you as facilitator can, if you wish, choose to be the person who reports back to the whole group on your proposal. You can also choose that somebody else might do the report back. That's great. There may be a particular person who's got something they've got to say. And the report back is important because as well as the words that you're expressing to others at the event, there's also the notes that you've prepared, which will then enable the presentation of the findings of your table in a synthesis of the overall event, and then the presentation of that information on the Food Systems Dialogues website. That in turn feeds into what we call the red thread of ideas that have been developed at Food Systems Dialogues across the world and over time. And even after 1 year of the Food Systems Dialogues, we've had 1,000 people or more participating in these events, and this is going to grow, so your ideas feed in to that accumulation of synthesized information, the red thread that comes through the Food Systems Dialogues. As a facilitator at a Food Systems Dialogues table, you have 3 primary responsibilities. The first is to make the people at your table feel comfortable, welcome, and safe. The second is to ensure that everyone at the table has the same opportunity to contribute to the dialogue. And the third is to capture the proposal coming from your table in a written form. Let me go into each of those in more detail. Making the participants at your table feel comfortable, welcome, and safe. They should feel able to have a lively conversation with each other. They should feel welcome to participate in the conversation. They should feel safe to express their full and honest point of view without anybody putting them down or treating them with disrespect. Secondly, making sure that everybody has an opportunity to contribute. Sometimes we call it making sure that airtime is balanced. It means that as facilitator, you have to make sure that everybody around the table has a chance to contribute, even those who've said little so far. Sometimes you have to gently thank and then reclaim the floor from people who tend to speak a lot. If there's somebody going off topic, you have to nudge them back onto topic. If there's suddenly somebody who's insistent on lecturing everybody else about what should happen, try to get them to listen to others and not just do all the talking themselves. Sometimes you can have a time-bound private brainstorm where people just think quietly without necessarily speaking for 3 or 4 minutes, writing down their ideas on post-it notes or on pieces of paper. And then when they've done their internal thinking, they could perhaps be encouraged to talk to their next door neighbour before speaking to the whole group. Or if you feel it would be working best, you can bring them straight into the whole group discussion. Third one, capturing your table's proposal in a written form. We'd like you to make sure that there is a written outline of your table's idea in order for it to be captured and then included in the overall report, what we call the Food Systems Dialogue Synthesis, which goes into the global red thread. I'd like to just now talk about some of the facilitation principles that we have in the Food Systems Dialogues. These are quite straightforward. There are 4 of them, and we'd like you to remember these. You might find them useful in other settings as well. I'll summarize them quickly. Firstly, do a check-in and a check-out with your table. Secondly, be comfortable with disagreement. Thirdly, Chatham House rules apply. Fourthly, capture your proposal in the template. Check in and check out. This is a simple technique to create a quick connection, acknowledging everybody around the table as a normal person, not an expert or a competitor, trying to make sure that everybody feels that they are treated equally. So start with yourself and then go round the table one by one, inviting everybody in 10 words or less to share how they are feeling. And that really matters because we're trying to help people connect with their feelings and therefore encouraging them at the check-in and at the check-out to say how they feel creates the right spirit. Disagreement. Now, most of us believe that breakthroughs come through differences of opinion. And if differences of opinion emerge at your table, don't shy away from it, but lean into it. Make it clear that this is a good thing, because identifying where the ideas and actions of different individuals tend to clash, and there appear to be what we sometimes call trade-offs because the issues are contested, is really useful. It helps us to find ways to manage these clashes and to work with them to get a better result. It's sometimes said that when people with very different opinions come together, the outcome is much more powerful than when it's just people with the same point of view. So it really is easy to try to move away from disagreement, to be a little bit scared of conflict, and particularly if it's expressed with powerful feeling. But it's actually a golden opportunity when there are disagreements to progress through what are sometimes long-standing stalemates. So encourage your participants when there are conflicts to elaborate on exactly why they think the way they do so that everybody can properly appreciate their perspective. And don't be scared about feeding these disagreements back when you're reporting back. It's okay. That's why we call them food systems dialogues. Now, let me talk a little bit about Chatham House rules. This is a way of making sure that people at your table know that anything they say will not be attributed to them or to the organisation they work for when everybody at the table leaves the room. It's super important because that's what creates a sense of safety. And it's called Chatham House rules because it's a rule that's applied at the Royal Institute for International Affairs, or Chatham House in London, and it's one that we refer to often. And it means be a little bit careful too when you're taking pictures, especially when you're putting a caption on the picture, because again, you don't want the person concerned to feel that they might be put in a situation of discomfort. Always check that they're okay to be having their picture taken, especially if it's going on to social media. And lastly, you will be provided with a simple template that you can use to collect up your table's ideas. The proposal, perhaps 1 or 2 big ideas, and then ways in which that you will know whether or not it's been realised, the different ways in which the participants at the table feel that they can contribute to it. It's when it all comes to life. And so that template guides you through some short questions and helps ensure that the major parts of what's being discussed are written down. Please write super neatly, because we're going to transcribe them and type them up, and it's terribly helpful both for organising your table's thoughts, for ensuring good feedback, and then for enabling us to prepare the synthesis. Good luck and thanks.